Vicki?
Yes.
Is there action?
Yes.
Yes, we should do a journal entry that extends the unpaid leave of an employee of the solid waste district until the last day in February.
February 29th, 2020.
Okay, that's a motion.
Yes, so moved.
Okay, I will second.
Roll call line.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Vicki?
Yes.
We need to post the position. Or post a position. So I'll make a motion to enter a journal entry to post the position internally for a mechanic one for the solid waste management district.
Second.
Roll call line.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Vicki?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call line.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Vicki?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
We'll
See
reconvene
ya.
The Board of Commissioners meeting?
What we got next? HR?
Hey, Mel. I just want to let you know, I've been out with medical stuff.
Okay.
I did notice that you sent a press release. I'll call you this afternoon.
Okay, yeah. I have a 1 o'clock and then after that I should be good.
Okay.
Thanks, Diane.
Morning.
Morning, Janet.
Hello, Janet.
I did not find my packet. Did that come in our,
It came weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it was like mid-December,
in
but
our
I think Julie also scanned it.
mailbox? Okay. Or in email?
Do you want her copy?
No, let me just dig around some more.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause I had it on my packet.
because I made each you guys a packet.
Yeah, I got one.
And actually, just so you have an updated copy, this is updated section, it's in your scanning copy, scanning your packet correctly, but this is updated, is that from me,
Okay.
Section
Yeah, this
is
is the
updated.
original packet.
Okay, this
Davis.
past Monday, yeah. Just on the packets. That's fine.
Yeah, I got it, thanks. I buried it under some stuff.
Okay, you guys have the copy of the drafting policy manual. You can obviously tell that we made some, a few changes or recommendations for changes. Just kind of give you a history on how we got to today, where these changes came from. I actually started in June of last year. Just first, I reviewed the policy manual. At the same time, I also sent certain sections over to a team of the subject matter experts and had them review their sections. And, asked them for feedback. They provided it, and then I updated the policy manual based on their feedback and what I felt some changes could be. And then we started meeting with all the directors. So I'm very happy to say, every single director participated in the review of the policy manual.
You've made progress.
And provided input. I mean, as you can tell, I attached a little timeline to this, because at first it was really just for me to kind of keep track of things, but then when I looked back, I was like, oh my gosh, we did a lot of work on this, so I kind of kept it there so we could kind of see. But I really wanted you guys to kind of see the history of where we got to, where we're at today. Rather than going through every single change that we made, there are only really a few sections that I really want to point out to you. But before we do that, I didn't know if you will have any immediate questions right now about anything that you saw or whatever.
I saw a lot of work, Janet.
It took some time. I will say that it took some time, but there were just a few sections I just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with before we do any of these changes. The first one is actually in, it's on page 9. It's section 1. And I really just want to point this out to you, because some of the directors felt like we needed a section regarding, in a section G, the self-reporting of convictions and or open charges. Right now, without this section, employees only have to report drug convictions, criminal drug convictions to us within a certain time frame. The directors did feel that we should have knowledge of convictions of anything, or even pending charges of anything. So this is where this section came from, and actually the language came from, we did a research of my HR peers and asked for, anybody have policies on self-reporting of convictions or charges. And so this language is actually taken from just a group of my peers. And so the directors, they liked this language. So that is where this section's coming from. And employees, they are to report to us if they are convicted or if they, have any charges against them within either 3 days or the first day of reporting back to work, whatever the lesser time frame is. So we added that section just so we kind of know, like, hey, if someone got arrested or convicted of something, we probably should know about it.
That only if it pertains to something to their job, or
No, it could
just
be
in
anything,
general?
but we will make sure, we will assess it and look at and see what were the charges about. And then see if it's related to their job.
Now, Janet, what if these charges are false? I mean,
If it's false and they're not convicted of
Right.
anything, and then if they're, depending on the situation, it's possible that they could be on unpaid leave. And if it comes out that they're either pled not guilty or something happened that is false or whatever's happening, we would go back in time and we would pay them back.
okay.
Yeah. So this, depending on what it is, it's really criminal activity that we're looking for. So based on, depending on what the offense is, it could be or could not be related to the job. That would be up to us. We would actually, the department director would work with us and we would work with the prosecutor's office just to make sure that it's not related to the job. Or if it is, and then that's when we do another assessment and that's when we figure out, are they a threat to us? Is it a threat to our safety of our employees and safety to the public? And that's when we would decide that possibly take them off their job and either put them on an unpaid leave of absence. And they have the option to use accrued vacation if they want to before they're put on unpaid leave of absence. So that's where this section is coming
Now,
from.
has Chris Maduri looked at this verbiage?
Yes,
Okay.
and actually Chris actually attended every single
Okay,
meeting we had
good.
regarding the policy, regarding the policy.
and he was fine with that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is this common practice though, in like the county government? I'd be interested to see.
I mean, I could actually go back and see who all provided feedback to me. I mean, these policies, I would say several of my peers provided copies of policies to me from their.
But your peers aren't necessarily in government, are they?
Yes, they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was from your SHRM group
No.
or, okay.
No, this is actually the Akron HR group that I meet with, and they're the ones. I mean, they're some are county, some are cities. I mean, it's just
Okay.
we're all government. Yeah.
On the notification, the department will consult with the HR department and the prosecutor's office.
Mhm.
Do you want to be the one consulting with the prosecutor's office, or do you want that department director? You know what I mean? 'Cause
Usually it's me.
Right,
Usually
so
it's me.
if they're doing both, the way it's written, it would be them.
Yeah. And I could change it to maybe reflect either that, or we could do a conference call if I have the director in my office. We would both call Chris
Okay.
and review the situation. But I mean, if you guys feel that I need to change that language, I could clarify that.
It kind of goes
It really
either
is
way,
me.
so I think that that's okay. We'll consult with this and this,
Mhm.
meaning it could be that director would consult with Chris directly,
Yeah.
versus going through you.
Yeah. I would say for the most part, and unfortunately it doesn't happen very often.
Right, of course.
When this has happened in the past, the director has called me, and then we have communicated with Chris.
Well, that's pretty much what it says, is they'll
Yeah.
consult with you and the prosecutor.
Mhm. Yeah, and just in case, maybe perhaps if I'm not here or whatever reason, I would want, obviously I want them to contact Chris directly.
That's a good
But then
point.
Chris is really good about keeping me in the loop.
Right.
So he's, yeah. if
I
he
think
had-
that verbiage is good.
Okay. What else did you wanna point out to us?
The other one, and I just wanna, is on page 45. This is in its section I. This is kind of confusing for the director, so I had to label it a little bit different, but this is regards to social media guidelines if a department has a department website. And this is how this started a couple years ago, when actually Mike was still here. This was not social media for our employees. Our employees, that belongs in section 10, is the communication systems. These guidelines were for every department has their own website and they're communicating out to the public. This is what the guidelines are. They already come to you and come with a plan. Like this is what I want for our department website. And we will have certain staff monitor the website. And at the same time, there'll also be a record retention schedule along with those records. So, and actually, way in the back, in our social media, our records retention policy, I do have the social media records added to our records retention policy now. So that's just a different factor that the departments have to take into consideration. If they do have a social media website, those records are public records, and they will have to retain those. So, but that's something new in our policy. We've been working on it for a couple of years, a year and a half at least. So this is just for departments to follow.
You know, Jen, who would be the people to oversee this? Like, I don't know anyone that we could use that would have the time. I mean, who would do that, oversee the website?
It would be the department, so the department would choose somebody.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
to oversee that. Like, for example, like JFS has
Okay.
their communication officer.
Okay.
I know Water Resources at one time, I believe that they were the ones that were starting to talk about this. And Jean and Laura would have someone
Okay.
in their department
Okay.
monitor the website. Yeah,
These real small departments like EMA and the dog warden.
I'm guessing it's probably the directors.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
okay.
Yeah. And also a lot of this language is also taken from the treasurer's office. They have a policy very similar to this. And some of the language was taken from their policy, which has already been approved by the prosecutor's office back whenever Brad developed the policy. And even this policy was also sent to the Ohio Historical Society, and I had somebody just review it really for the records retention section and just make sure based on her knowledge of any social media policies out there, does our policy make sense? Are we following the proper guidelines? And actually she agreed. She thought it followed the guidelines and it was, and again, we had this reviewed by Chris, and Chris thought the language was fine as well.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to ask you about was on page 23, prior permission, now change to notification of outside employment.
Yes, that was,
On page 23, section B.
yeah. This was a heavy conversation within the directors group. This was really, because neither one of my employees have outside employment, but some of the directors that have employees from outside, it seemed like the policy, the process was followed inconsistently because we can't monitor if everybody has a second job out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yet our policy said they were to receive prior permission before getting a second job, and including if they want to be a waitress somewhere. We were expecting them to
Mhm.
notify us.
It's for all, yeah.
It's for all. And so the directors felt, because of that, there was almost like they couldn't really monitor if everybody was following that process. Some employees were very self-aware of this,
Mhm.
and because they would contact us saying, hey, I'm getting a job at Bob Evans, should I do an outside employment form? And we would tell them yes. Now, did that cause a conflict with the department? Probably not, but the directors wanted the discretion to say, hey, if anyone has any outside employment, come to me as the director, then I will decide if that's a conflict with the services that we provide. If they felt it was a conflict, then they would follow the process and have the employee fill out the outside employment form and then go to Joanne to make sure that there's no vendor conflict, and then come to you for your signature. So the directors really wanted to stop there. Like if someone wanted to be a waitress somewhere, okay, that probably is not gonna be a conflict with anybody. So that they wanted that discretion. They wanted to see should we move forward or not. So this was a heavy conversation between the directors. And basically the new sections in A is just B, just moved up to A, because I was trying to move things around where it flows better. And then to say that if the employees before they start a new job, they're to go to the department director and say, hey, I wanna work for Tractor Supply.
Okay.
You know, am I allowed, or whatever.
So Janet, the process now going forward, they go to the director, if the director sees no conflict, it doesn't go to Joanne and to us.
Right.
It stops there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Would you guys unless you see an issue with that, we could go back to, it just felt like the directors felt like they
did.
nobody was really monitoring it, because someone could have a second job and you really won't know unless that person, it's here in the policy manual, which there are some employees it is here, you know, they would say, hey, you know, I want a job, I want to go work for whoever. But
Yeah, 'cause
most
it's about
employees,
this-
we have no idea.
It's time of year that we start getting a stack of those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
because
won't
every now
see
and then we'll
those.
see them. We'll see them in our office, like somebody
Yeah.
will drop them off to Jenna. You know, so sometimes they go through us. But now it'll only be if the director feels, like Kelly Jo, for example, maybe if someone's working at Family Community Services, she may feel that that could possibly be a conflict. So then she'll follow the process and go through Joanne, and then eventually come to you guys.
Do you anticipate any problems with that? With directors
I hope not.
knowing conflicts or
Well,
having trouble?
And we actually talked about that.
Because they're closer to the
Yeah,
employees
but
as well.
Yeah, and the directors were thinking, well, they know their departments, they know if there should be a conflict or not. So I'm hoping that the process will be okay. Again, if we start seeing any issues, the same thing with Joanne, if she starts seeing any issues, I have no problem to come back to original language.
You know, Janet, the only thing with that is, I mean, now it just seems like we follow what the director says anyway, but I would be hesitant to say, if the director saw a problem, to say, oh, there's no problem. I mean, I would refer to the director.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just to make it more legit, or if
Yeah.
the director sees a conflict, I would almost bet you that it's not gonna be approved, right?
And that's very well possible,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if there's ever been any that have not been, I'm assuming I don't always see them.
Right.
I only see them if they come through our department, just maybe by chance, the department, so if an employee's so used to dealing with us, they might drop off the form to us. But I don't always see them.
When you say there was heavy discussion, did some directors wanna stay with our process now?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
I would say most wanted this.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I see most, I probably would say like 99%.
Okay.
Like, and it could even be 100%.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
All right.
They really felt, the process really was inconsistent. And I will tell you, there was even, some discussion from just a couple of directors that just felt like, who are we to say if someone can't have a second job? Because maybe financially, they need a second job to support their family or whatever. But our whole purpose is to make sure it's not a conflict in what your primary job's here.
Yeah.
And we wanna make sure you're not conflicting with what your services you're providing here, but at the same time, when that director needs you to work overtime, you can't say, oh, I'm sorry, my shift ends at 4:30, but I'm to start at 4:45 down Tractor Supply. No, I'm sorry, we need you to work overtime
Right.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, I had a discussion with one of the directors regarding this, and they felt very strongly that if they needed a second job, they needed a second job.
Mhm.
And I went over what you just said. That's true, and we don't mind that, but it has to be not in conflict with what you're doing here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's the whole purpose of just like checking to make sure that there's no conflict. It's not to say, no, you can't go have a second job.
Right.
It's just, we just wanna make sure
Right.
there's no conflict in the services. But at the same time, we want the ability, the directors want the ability to say, you know what, I need you here working because of overtime. Like, we can't leave your, I'll say solid waste, like, we can't have you leave your route because you have a second job at wherever.
Definitely.
You need to finish your route, but, I mean.
I would hope we
this-
wouldn't have to say that.
But and that's the whole thing, we, the directors want the ability to say, you know, your primary job's here, and we need you working here before you go to your second job.
I think number 4, did you add that in there? Is that new, that it's underscored?
No, that's not new, it's actually
Okay.
taken from, 1C, that's crossed off. I just looked it up,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I think that's good to put in there.
yeah, let me just read that up. Yeah, that was actually, that has always been in this policy. The last time the policy was updated was back in March of 18, and I believe we added, because before I think it just said sick leave, like if you're on sick leave, you could not work your second job. Well, we added for your employee's own illness, because if you
call
take
off
off your
here,
sick child
yeah.
during the day, okay, at nighttime you could still go to your second
To your
job
second
because your
job.
spouse is home, or whatever. But the way the policy read, it made it sound like,
If you don't come here, you can't go there.
yeah, so that that language
Yeah,
is
that's what I
always there.
said, I thought it was good clarification.
Yeah, so that's really not new, that's been in there.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to make sure you highlighted for us?
I just wanna make sure, I know we worked a lot on the travel policy last
Mhm.
summer.
Yeah.
There were only 2 items that the directors wanted to make sure was clear. The first was on page 54. I'm hoping the page number.
Yeah, that's okay.
54?
Yeah, this would be section, it's not gonna be the section new 14, the travel expense reimbursement. They wanted some direction on the difference between in-county and out-of-county driving, really because we no longer have a, you okay, Serene? Is it right?
No, you know what, I don't think that's the right one for eligibility standard, driver eligibility,
might be.
okay, it may be a okay, which
It's
section are you
the travel
under?
expense, are you on the travel expense?
Yeah, this is under driver
It
eligibility.
should be right after the driver,
Oh, here we go,
yeah.
it's off by 1 page.
Yeah, because I thought maybe when it was scanned.
Mhm.
Yeah. So underneath B, there are now in-county and out-of-county is actually broken down. And this is really because now we no longer have the motor pool cars available to all the departments. There are some departments that have a county car assigned to them. So we wanted to be clear, really for mileage reimbursement. If it's in-county, we do want something said that an employee would have to drive their own car to, if they have to go somewhere, to drive their own car, unless that department has an assigned county car, then obviously they can take the county car. Out of county, based on, the directors want the discretion to say, if the employee came to them and said, my car's leased, I don't wanna drive to Columbus. Okay, we'll allow, let's get you a rental car, because now we have the enterprise rental car.
Yeah.
That might make sense in that situation, instead of making an employee drive their own car down to Columbus. Now, if the employee wants to drive their own car, they absolutely.
Get reimbursed mileage.
Yeah, they could get mileage reimbursement, absolutely. So we just wanted to I guess really just clarify and kind of make it, if it's in county, you will drive your own car, unless you have a county car assigned to you. Out of county, you have the option. And that would be up to you and the director to figure out the best.
I think we have that set up through enterprise too, for the rentals, right?
Yeah. And then the one other change to the policy was in section C, and it's meals. And we actually talked about this last year.
Mm-hmm.
We had briefly talked about adding timeframes to the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That actually came up in one of the director meetings, and I had said that it's funny because we had talked about meal times, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember why we removed the meal times. And I even checked with the auditor's office, like, do you remember why we decided not to go for just define the meal times? And neither one of us could really remember. So, but the directors felt like, well, what does dinner mean?
I think it had to do
So
with
it's-
travel and dinner,
Yeah.
and whether, like, if you left at 2:00 and you would be back by 4:00,
by 4.
do you get,
Yeah.
can
And
you
like-
claim dinner
Yeah.
because you were traveling?
Right.
I think that we were trying to
Right.
think it through that way.
Yeah. And because I think we were trying to think of, like,
Something like that.
what's beneficial for the county. Like, yeah, if someone told by 4:30, do you really need to stop for dinner?
Right, right.
Mhm.
I personally don't think so, but, you know. So these are the timeframes that, I looked back at my draft of the travel policy that we had last year, and these are the timeframes that was part of the original draft. The director seemed fine with that timeframe, but I'll leave it up to you guys if you feel like those timeframes need to be adjusted.
No, I think they look good. Cause some people eat dinner later, so.
And I'm thinking, even if you're at an all-day conference down there and you're staying till the next day,
Yeah.
chances are your conference not gonna be over till 4:30, so by the time you go out to dinner, it's gonna be past 6.
Yeah.
You know, but again, the travel will be, you know, looked at by the department director before they sign off, or by supervisor, whoever reviews their department travels. And they, you know, they have every right to ask them about
Sure.
this. The same thing with you guys. If I put in a travel request, you have every right to ask me, like, about my travel reimbursements. So nothing has really changed, we just added the timeframes to the meals.
Okay.
The next one, this is the one that I wanted to make sure that you guys were okay with. Again, this was, the next one is the flex time. It's my page 63, but it may be, the scans, is it maybe 62 or 64 on the scan copy?
No, it starts on 63.
Yeah, 62, 63.
It's for the flex time,
Mine starts on 63.
okay.
E.
Flex time starts at 62, but I'm gonna talk about page 63, so flex time is E, so, we broke it down into, you can see different categories, you can see the non-exempt classified, you can see exempt classified, and then you see the exempt unclassified. We broke it down into those 3 sections, thinking that you, at different levels, you could have different, maybe use your own discretion.
Good morning.
The non-exempt classified, those are your most non-bargaining employees. Most of your employees will fall underneath the non-exempt classified. Your exempt classified, those right now are your deputy directors, and a few of your non-bargaining are exempt classified employees. And then your exempt unclassified, those are your department directors. So, and speaking about the department directors first, the exempt unclassified, we drafted language really based on an honor system. And again, this is why I'm bringing it to you guys, 'cause I don't know at what point do you want us to come to you and say, we are flexing out? Like, we worked 2 hours over Monday, we need to leave 2 hours early on Friday for an appointment. Do you want to know that? Right now, the directors, we drafted language to say, at our own discretion. If you could ask us for our work logs, and you could ask us for our timesheets or whatever, to say, yes, I did work over 2 hours on Monday. But if we have an appointment, if we need to leave 2 hours early on another day, then do we have the capability to do that, or do you need
It's
your
giving a little
permission?
more discretion to the
It
directors.
is, yeah, and that's really what the directors really felt like, at our level, hopefully there's trust.
If we
that-
can't trust you, you shouldn't be here,
Right,
Jane.
absolutely. At the same time, we know based on our jobs, we may put in extra hours based on whatever's happening that week. You know, the next week, maybe we could get out of here after 8.5 hours, depending on what's ever happening. So I think the directors just want that discretion to actually just use that, like, okay, I need to leave early on Friday for whatever reason. I did work over, you know, last week for 2 hours, whatever, I'm gonna leave.
What's the flex time period, Janet? So it's not within 1 week. You can use, if you worked extra the week before,
Yeah.
you could.
For the normal, I say normal non-bargaining,
2
those
weeks.
are your classified employees, that's within the same work week. So within that same week,
So 1 week.
so if they work over Monday, they can take off 2 hours with the permission of the supervisor or the department director.
Okay.
Your
Exempt
exempt
has 2
classified
weeks.
are your would be your deputy directors, and some of your very select non-bargaining, they could have 2 weeks. And again, that's up to the department director. The department director approves their time. And then ours, we didn't really put a time frame. on the department directors, however we can put a time frame in there. We kind of left it up in the open and just having the director to use their discretion. But it's up to you if you want us to put a time frame in there, 2 weeks, 2 payroll periods, whatever you want us to do.
I think that would be very difficult to keep track of. I wouldn't want to try to keep track of that.
Yeah, because really, who's gonna keep track of it? But now,
No.
if you guys come to us and say, you know what, Janet, I'm getting phone calls that you can never be reached, what are you doing? I flexed out, how many hours? Well, shame on me.
Yeah.
But the director should be able to get their job done and make sure it's done before they leave, I would think.
Mhm.
But it's you guys, if you start getting phone calls, or maybe you're looking for a doctor that, where they go, why are they always gone? Well, now you could ask that person. You could ask them for their work log.
Do all the directors keep work logs? Do you know? I don't even know.
I don't know if they do or not.
Was
I don't
that
know.
mentioned in the discussion with them about this? I mean, it would,
It was mentioned by a director that keeps a work log.
okay.
Yeah. I would
Okay.
say, I do know a few of us keep timesheets.
Uh-huh.
I know that for sure. I don't know if all the directors have timesheets. It didn't sound like it, but I know there are a handful of us that keep timesheets.
Mhm.
So if you ever come to me and say, hey, can I see your timesheet from last week? I'm like, sure, here you go. And there would be other handful of directors that will do that as well.
So would this still need to be initially approved for one of those like a director?
For the director, no, and that would be up to, that's the main thing where the discretion will be left up to the director. Now, the other, like a deputy director or another non-bargaining employee, they would need that prior approved, from the department director, saying, hey, do you mind if I work over tonight, because I need to finish whatever project? The department director would need to say yes or no, and they would need to agree to it. At the same time, even time off, it would be the department director should be able to say, I can't have you off because I'm off that day, I need you here, or whatever.
E1, so current E1, 2, 3, and 4,
Uh-huh.
before you get into employee categories, still talks about flex time being authorized and that you must seek approval. So it seems to me,
I could clarify
See what I'm
that,
saying?
maybe say, if you're okay with the current department director language, I could clarify that to say something like, excluding exempt and classified, or somehow make it clear. I don't know if that's where you're going. Can you make it-
I'm trying to think, so if we had an employee that, say, left at 3 o'clock every Wednesday, a director, they could just do that without letting us know, as long as they had gotten the hours in within a 2-week period.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Without
what they want. That's what the
prior
directors want, yes.
approval.
Yes, but if you guys feel differently, then we would change the policy to say that. Like, should you know when a director's leaving? Should you know when a director's flexing out their hours?
I feel like, I wonder, is there a way to contemplate a regular leaving? Like, if someone's gonna leave every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, that would be helpful to know in advance at some point, and maybe at some regularly scheduled check-in too, of like, each year you don't just make that approval and then 2 years later someone's still doing that and a new commissioner may come in and not know. But I don't feel like I need to know that that another employee is going to a doctor's appointment at 4 o'clock when they worked until 6 the day before. That, to me, I trust directors, that makes sense, and I trust directors with having certain scheduling issues, it just would be helpful to know, oh, if I need that director on Wednesday after 2:00,
You know you won't.
I won't be able to find them, I'll wait till the next morning or whatever it is.
That, I would consider that not quite I don't know if it would be a permanent, shift change or whatever, or if that's something's happening that they need to leave it every Wednesday at 3:00 maybe for a short time or whatever. I see that as a change in their schedule, the work shift. The flex time is supposed to be short term. Like I,
Not every week,
yeah,
we're
not every
doing the
week,
same
not
thing.
every week, next week I need to leave at noon next Thursday. So before next Thursday, I'm gonna make up my 4 hours somewhere. Like I consider that the flex time. I would say if someone's permanently leaving at 3:00 every Wednesday for whatever reason, somehow I could see that. And maybe they're working extra on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday to make up that time they leave Wednesday. I would assume, I would take that as a
Permanent schedule change.
and I would think that needs to come to you, just so you know, like, if
Yeah.
you're looking for that director at 3:00, you're not gonna find them because of whatever it is.
Okay.
Forget that director should still be available to you on my phone, because we're directors, and I don't think we ever,
Right,
we don't ever leave
right,
our job.
yes, okay.
But
So
physically.
it's separate, that's separate, and we don't need to.
Yeah,
that-
but I,
A schedule change, yeah.
Yeah.
but I could figure out how to word that in here.
If it's separate and it's worded
If it's
somewhere,
not flex time,
then
really,
I don't think we need to
so it shouldn't be under
adjust
flex
it
time.
for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope that if the director has a type of schedule, I would hope they would bring it forward to you. I mean, I don't wanna speak for all the directors, I would hope that they would think, oh, let me tell my boss. Because, I mean, a normal non-bargaining wouldn't just leave every Wednesday at 3:00. They would tell their direct supervisor, they would tell their director, or ask, for that shift change. They wouldn't leave, so I wouldn't think that we would leave. Like, if I did that, I would tell you, but
Right.
I don't wanna speak for her. But if there's somewhere in the policy manual, if we need to state that, or maybe we just need to just clarify that with the directors. Actually, our first director meeting is January 22nd, and the very first meeting we're having this year. That's something that.
I think that would be helpful, just to clarify schedule change versus flex time.
I agree.
And one other thing that I want to point out in the flex time, I know there was some discussion about if an employee, are they to work at home? If they're making up their hours, do they make up the hours here in the office? Or can they work at home and make up their hours? The way we worded this, that would be up to the department director.
Yeah.
If they have an employee that's saying, for whatever reason, I need to leave at 1:00 today to go to a doctor appointment, but I can work tonight on project X. Is that okay with you? I would think the department director can say, yes, that's fine. Or they could say, no, we need you in the office to make up the 3 hours later this week. We do have that in there where it's up to the department director.
Does
what to
everybody
say.
have access to the county internet and all the workings at home? I don't think everybody has that
I
access.
don't think
do
everybody
they?
does unless they
No.
ask IT for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because IT has to.
So that would have to be case by case, obviously.
Yeah, because IT has to
Yeah.
install it.
Probably
on the laptop
department
or
by
whatever.
department.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't access like the email version?
Oh, they can access the
Oh, but
email.
not other
But
stuff.
not our system.
Like
Yeah.
Munis and,
Got it, sorry.
Yeah.
you have to have special permission to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I know, like, for example, I gotta bring my laptop in, and IT had to install whatever it was.
Okay.
And install the software.
Was this something that the directors all wanted the ability to do and were unanimous on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, this was pretty, there were some that were just, if they want someone to work at home for whatever reason, they can, but the department directors felt like their employees should come to them and say, can I work from home for whatever reason? No, it should be on occasion, it shouldn't be every time I flex, I'm gonna flex at home. you know, so, but again, it's up to the department director. If they want that every day or every time, then let them do it.
Well, you know, I think every department is kind of different, I mean,
Yeah.
Cause there's
so,
some directors
yeah,
that can't really do work at
can't really
home.
set a rule,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, but it was like, but we put that in there just so then that way it's up to the department director at their discretion. Like, yes, I realize that you work on Project X at home,
Okay.
and, you know, and it's okay, sometimes maybe you just need like the quietness to think about a project or whatever, you know what I mean, sometimes it might just work better, I mean, I don't, but.
I never can work at home. I have to be at work.
And there's only one more thing I just wanna make sure you guys are okay with. This was the new section 23, paid leaves of absence.
What page is
Starts
that
on
on?
page 72.
what page, Janet?
72. I think that would be.
Okay.
Only thing, this one, we had clarification on different sections throughout this section, but the one thing I want to point out to you, underneath A3, the definition of immediate family, we felt very strongly that this definition should match the definition of immediate family underneath funeral leave.
Yes.
So what we did, and you can see in the blueprint, we added children's spouse, spouse's parent, spouse's grandparent, sibling spouse, and spouse's sibling. Basically, your in-laws, you know, that can really be, but that definition now matches the funeral leave immediate family. So we just thought that maybe it should match. The only, and then underneath the funeral leave on page 74, for whatever reason, foster children weren't listed for underneath funeral leave, so we added foster children, because I believe foster children were listed underneath immediate family for sick leave, but it wasn't for funeral leave.
Oh.
So we just kind of made sure.
It's uniform.
Yeah, the only thing that we did not add to the sick leave that isn't a funeral leave, is the last time we updated our policy, we actually added, for an event of a death of an aunt, uncle, niece, or nephew, we allowed the employee to take up to 2 days for the funeral leave of those relatives. We did not add the aunt, uncle, niece, and nephew to the sick leave. And there's really no reason why we didn't, we just never really, we didn't really talk about it. We just really wanted to keep with the true definition of immediate family. We wanted that to be uniform and consistent. So I don't know if you feel differently about that one, but we didn't consider adding the aunt, uncle, niece, and nephew to the sick leave. But we can, but we didn't.
Well, I think if they were kind of more than the aunt or uncle, if they were a caretaker, that's covered. It says the
Yeah.
legal guardian or other person
Yeah.
who stands in the place of a parent, so
Yeah,
that kind
I
of
mean,
covers that.
Probably somewhere, yeah. So that was the only thing that we did not make uniform with the sick leave. That was really the only, the sections that I really wanted to make sure they pointed out to you and make sure that you were okay. Obviously, there were other changes throughout the policy manual. More or less about clarifying language and making sure, like, if any director had any issues this past year about language, something maybe you didn't say something right or whatever, then we updated language in the policy manual. So I don't know if there were any
I'm just real glad
questions.
about the participation that you had. That's
Yeah,
important.
if a director could not attend a meeting, then they emailed me their comments.
Okay.
But at some point, a director attended the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to make sure and read over this again and make sure before you really say it's approved. Otherwise, I would bring the resolution back next week, saying that we're adopting the new policy manual. It's up to you. Or I could give you more time to review the policy manual draft to make sure you're really okay with all the changes.
I'm fine with
It's up
it.
to you.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think next week makes sense.
Okay, then I will do that. That's it.
Thank you so much, Janet, for all your work. There's a lot there.
But it's good though.
Yeah.
And to be really honest, the meetings that we had were really good.
Good.
Yeah, we had some really good
It's all
discussions.
about communication, right?
It is, yeah.
You know,
and,
Juna, it's good because every department does function differently, so some things may apply to certain departments,
Yeah.
others, so it's good to have
Yeah.
input.
And it was nice that all the directors, and the deputy directors also attended the meetings. It was good that they all you know, had a chance to sit around the table and, just hear what each department's going through. Because like you say, each department has different situations happen. It's like, oh, we
Right.
handle it this way, or we handle it this way. And it was just a nice conversation,
Mhm.
which is another reason why we decided to start the director meetings this year. So hopefully those meetings go.
Is that once a month or once a quarter?
Right now, we're starting once a month. It's
Okay.
the,
Fifth month?
I think it's the third Wednesday of every month. Now, if we end up not having any agenda topics, and we're all kind of staring at each other, then we'll move to quarterly or however we, you know, but right now, they're scheduled every month.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, our first one's January 22nd. I'm slowly putting an agenda together, and then it's only an hour long meeting, and we'll talk about what do we want out of these meetings, what are we looking
Mhm.
for. And so we're gonna try it. See what
Sounds good.
happens. So-
Thank you, Janet.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Janet.
much. You wanna send Jean and Laura in here,
Thank you.
please?
Thank you
Welcome.
guys for waiting so